All right, let's take a look at how we can use VEX IQ parts and pieces and create a VEX IQ library. So if you notice right here, I have a VEX IQ library with all of these parts in it. And then inside of each of these, there's actually all the wheels are in here. So it's not just a singular wheel. So let's go through how to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new folder. So hit create folder, and then I named it VEX IQ 2425. So that's the first thing that I did. And then once you're in that folder, you can then do a create and do a document. And I created a document called VEX IQ test. You could just call it, IQ test if you want inside of that. And it's going to pull you into this document right here. Now, the V5 library is a little different. If you're doing V5 stuff, you can actually import this V5 library and you can actually click on the items and have it all right here. Not so with the IQ library. All right, so we're going to come back to this file once we import our library, and this is kind of how we're going to insert the different parts. So click on the Onshape button up here. And now we're going to go to where it says public right here. We're going to click on that, and we're going to search inside of public, and we're going to type in official VEX IQ. All right, so if you do that and you hit search, it's going to say nothing's there. This is where you have to do the special search. So if you click on the drop-down arrow and under description, type in official VEX IQ. Make sure you put a space there. So it's now searching for the description of that. And now you can see that the VEX IQ library pulls up. Now what you're going to do is you're going to left-click on the first one, scroll down, hold down your shift key, and select the last one. So it highlights everything. And then over here on the side, we're going to click on the create new label. Now I've already done this, so I'm not going to do it again. But if you create new label, and then I just gave it a name of VEX IQ library, and it will put all of these parts into that library. Once you've created the label with the library, you should now see it over here in your labels section off to the side. And you should see VEX IQ library, and it has all those files that we've just put into that particular label. So now the great thing is we go back to that file. So again, click on the Onshape button here in the top. A lot of this get started stuff, you can just minimize that so you can see all of your folders and some of your documents that you've done. But I'm going to go into the VEX IQ, my IQ test. And now I can import those items into an assembly. So the Part Studio is where you create the parts, but then the assembly is where you pull in parts to then put together. So at this point, I can click on the Insert button. So I'm going to highlight that. You go to Other Documents, and you can click on VEX IQ Library should now be a tag right here, where you have all of these files that we just copied into that and created a label for. All right, so let's say that you want to put some wheels in here. So you've got the IQ library, you click on wheels, it now pulls all the different wheel types that are in there, and you can open it up even more. I think if some of them are assemblies, and you can pull in like different parts of the assembly, I believe. Maybe not. But they might have other things underneath them, but I think most of these are just singles. So let's say you want omni wheels. For this first option, you just click once, left click, and then you can drop it on the screen. Click it again, you drop another one. And then let's say that you want, so I can go back, and let's say that I want some beams. So I'm going to grab the standard beams. I'm going to make a chassis, so I'm going to do a 4x plate, and then you can actually say the length. So there's the 4x16s, which are the big ones. Click on one of those. It's going to insert that into your drawing. So again, I'm using my scroll wheel to zoom in and zoom out. I'm going to place it there. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab a couple of shafts. And I'm going to do the motor shaft that looks like this. It has kind of the little middle cap to it. And there's, the red one, the blue one, the green one. So I think this is the longer one, which might be the green one, maybe. I'm going to drop it. There's a couple ways I could keep, I could click again in place, or if I'm done, you can actually just copy paste. So I can come in here, I can grab this part, Control C and then Control V, and I can paste another copy of it there. Now, to do your assembly of parts and pieces, you're going to be using these different commands up here, these mate connections or fasten mate, revolute, sliders, so these different connections and connection types that you have. So for example, this one can be a revolute, and I'm going to say that I want to, usually I do the part that's going to actually touch another part. So in this case, this green circle is going to touch one of these openings of this. So I'm going to click on this circle right here. And then when I click on the outside, it actually put it in the wrong direction. It made those mate together instead of like, they're this way instead of like being opposite of each other. So to fix that, you just click on this, flip the primary axis, and it can flip it around. You can see that that now connects into that opening. And when I say check mark, I'm going to X this out. It will allow me to rotate this piece like it didn't rotate. If I click and drag it, it moves the whole thing around. Well, we need to anchor one of our parts to fix it into a location. So if we basically highlight this piece, which is this one right here, you can right click on it and go to fix. And now this won't move. So if I try to click and drag it, it doesn't move around. But now I can click on this and I can rotate that axle. You can see that it rotate in that hole. And then if I want to put this item on there, the wheel, to be fixed to the axle, I can do that. So I'm going to use a mate connector, and I'm going to do a fasten mate this time. And I'm going to connect this piece right here. I'm going to attach it like to the end of this. But you can see that there's like the midpoint there, but then I can't see the end point of this. So one thing that you can do is you can connect it to the end of this. Again, I'm going to flip it. And then you can use the offset tool and you can push it back and forth. So in this case, if I look at the origin, so kind of way down in here, you can see that blue Z. So usually the Z axis is your one, and I'm going to just say 2, hit tab, and now you can see it pushed it 2 inches into the material. I'm right clicking and I can spin this around. You can see that's too far. So I'm going to make this like 1.5, tab. And you can now mess with these numbers, or if you wanted to, you could put spacers in here. You could put another plate on top of this, which is typically probably what you would end up doing because you want to contain that axle. Or you might have the axle from the other side, so you can put a motor on the back side. That's kind of where you get to decide on what's going to happen with it. And then when you click the check mark, it now connects the wheel to that axle. And now my wheel should rotate. Because again, this is a revolute with this piece, but then these two are fixed together. So as the axle rotates, the wheel rotates and vice versa. And this is how you go about building your robot in 3D space. It's a lot of mate features that you're going to go through, and then you're going to keep adding your parts and pieces. Now, I would not build giant assemblies. I would build what are called sub-assemblies. So for example, if I did this side of the robot and built, this half, this of the chassis, you can then rename this right here. We could call it like half chassis. And then I can create a new assembly. So down here, I'd go create assembly. And I can import, so I can go to insert from this document, assemblies, and I can now pull that half chassis into this other assembly. And the reason why I do that is because I might have 2 or 3 team members on my team. Each of them can be working on a different little sub-assembly, and then I can pull them into this full assembly, and I can pull their assemblies in and then attach them together how I need to. So very useful trick and tip if you're putting things together as a team, and you have multiple students that are working on these different sub-assemblies. Plus, it's good so when you go back and you're looking at parts, you're not going to look through 100 of these make fat features or 100 different parts. I might stick with 15 or 20 parts max in an assembly, and then move on to a different assembly, and then basically import the sub-assembly into a bigger assembly. And you can do this for an arm. So you can have like the forearm, you can have the claw, and then those go into a sub-assembly that's called the arm. And then that arm sub-assembly goes into your full robot assembly. So you could do things like that when you build. That way, if you have to make modifications to things, you're not hunting around for all these things. But I hope that helps. Hope this video gets you rolling with making your robots this year. I'm excited to see what you all come up with, and enjoy your time with Onshape. All right, we'll talk to you later.